White text over video of past events. Logo, Chicago Cultural Accessibility Consortium. Professional Development Series presents Accessible Services Showcase, Project Potential Part 5, Guest Experience. On stage, an ASL interpreter signs while a man introduces three seated people, one of whom uses a motorized wheelchair.
I'll next invite a team up who's going to talk about a few different concepts that all intersect together. Overall audience experience, relaxed, sensory-friendly productions, and also they'll speak about removing physical barriers. So we have Hillary Pearson, Chuck Grumman, and Michelle Benda.
Hillary.
So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this because a lot of the elements of this performance, the production side, we didn't really need to make many alterations since there isn't a lot of sensory overwhelming elements of the production. But we are going to talk a little bit about the importance of physical access to a space and what the elements are when you're designing sensory-friendly, relaxed performances and thinking about your audience. So first thing I want to just mention, when you're thinking about physical access for your space and your patrons, thinking about doing a physical audit of your actual organization, of the venue that you're in. What are the pathways like inside your space? Can people get in and out of restrooms, navigating hallways, entrances, doorways? Do they have access to your bar and your counters? Or can they have that shared experience in your lobby that everyone else has access to? What are the seating options like inside of the auditorium? Are there options? Are there multiple vantages, or is there one area for accessible seating? So just really getting yourself in the mind frame of thinking about that from the customer service side and knowing that those what's important in terms of physically accessing your space and your performance venue. And then in addition to that, staff training. When it comes to anything to do with accessibility, customer service, making sure that your frontline staff and anyone who's going to be having those interactions knows how to do that, knows the right language, and has the toolkit to be successful in every interaction. And so, Michelle, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, and I'll give you the mic. As a patron and also as someone who's a lighting designer, what are the things that are important to you when you're accessing a space, and what are the things that you need to be successful to experience?
Yeah. Absolutely. A lot of the things that Hillary was just talking about are also important for me as someone who is also working mainly in the front of house area as a lighting designer. The best experiences for me are the ones where I can have a conversation with the venue staff before I get there, not where they aren't assuming accessibility needs, where they can check in with me and I can check in with them to make sure that I have what I need to be successful. And also, it's more than just, can I physically get into the space, but can I be comfortable working there for sometimes up between 10 to 12 hours a day? One of the biggest conversations I have with the venue is, where does the tech table go? Because typically the ideal placement for it is center house, which is frequently not an accessible area. So we have the conversation of, can I be brought to the tech table, or does the tech table need to be brought to me? And what works best for both me and the sort of setup in the space. A lot of times I end up teching from the accessible seat, which is usually in the front row, which means that I miss a lot of the other vantage points in the house. So I will I will talk to other team members who are sitting in other vantage points to see what if I'm missing anything, just to kind of see, make sure that everyone in the audience will have the kind of experience of my design that I want them to. So yeah, it's a lot of communication with venue staff and with the rest of the design team. I've had experiences that have been great, figuring out if it's a combination of the two. Like, can you move the tech table forward a row and then put a ramp in so I can drive up to the tech table and then sit where I need to sit to kind of make it more accessible for the entire team. The other thing to think about too is the rehearsal space. If you're rehearsing in a space that's different from your venue, could someone who has mobility needs, can they get there? Or do you need to maybe schedule rehearsals in in a more accessible space for those times, or I've had where run-throughs have been recorded so I can watch them later if the space isn't accessible, and that works great too.
No, thank you, Michelle. And I think something to kind of add to that patron experience for physical access too, in addition to Michelle's work as a lighting designer, when thinking about the patron lens of who can someone talk to before they even arrive. So as a patron, thinking about what's on your website, do you have information about how your space can be accessed? Is there a curb cutout? Are there things that you might not be thinking about in terms of a step up at your entry point or a step down anywhere in your space? And just really making sure that you have as much information for someone who's coming to your space for the new time and someone that they can reach out to before if they have any questions. So thank you very much. Michelle, if you want to talk a little bit about the note for smaller houses.
Yeah. So with the accessible seat usually being in the front row, and also in this venue in particular, there are multiple vantage points where someone could be sitting in the front row. If you notice, my chair will frequently take up more or different space than just your standard chair sitting on the deck. So both as a lighting designer, I like to be able to see the show from multiple vantage points, but also thinking about if you have a patron with a mobility device who might be sitting in different areas, and making sure that the actors also feel comfortable navigating that space, since I take up a little bit more of the playing space than someone else might. So just kind of keeping everyone aware of that as early in the process as I can is something that I find helpful.
Great, and we'll be out in the networking space if there's any other questions about physical accessibility. Let's talk a little bit about relaxed and sensory-friendly programming and what that means. So I'm going to turn this over to Chuck. Chuck, if you can just kind of tell us the bullet points of what makes a program relaxed and sensory-friendly, and then what you as a designer are doing to make that happen.
Hi everybody, my name is Charlotte Grumman. Everyone calls me Chuck, and I'm a relaxed, sensory-friendly designer. So I work with theaters in making their shows more accessible to a larger audience, an audience that might have sensory processing disorder, who might be on the autism spectrum, might have anxiety, or any other number of differences that would provide a better experience if they were given the option to have a relaxed and sensory-friendly environment. So today, in terms of the show, we didn't need to make many adjustments. We made adjustments to the beginning lights, the school bell sound, mostly because it was being picked up in the assistive listening devices a little bit differently. But we start with a relaxed sensory show by watching the show multiple times. Usually I go to a run 2 or 3 times, kind of like what Jack said, so I can get a feel of the show. And then I'll work with lighting designers, sound designers, front of house, and stage management to talk about moments that we could alter to make it a little bit less intense. That usually includes adjusting strobe lights or crazy lighting effects that come out of nowhere, thunder, lightning, trains. Those are things that people who don't have issues with sensory processing or who might not have these differences wouldn't consider something worthy of a change. And the big point to remember when we're making these and facilitating these performances is that we're not trying to change the artistry at all. In fact, we're trying to be as close to the artistry as possible while making it accessible to a larger audience. And as a person with sensory processing disorder, I find myself in situations often where it feels uncomfortable or it feels scary to ask for those provisions from a theater because I don't want to be a nuisance and I don't want to ask for something that people might not think that they deserve. But luckily with this help of the CCAC, I've learned that people are willing, more than willing, and hoping to provide these experiences for larger audiences. And so through their guidance, I've been able to help with shows at the Goodman Theater, Steppenwolf, Second City, hopefully working at the Shed soon, and I'm working at Lollapalooza this year, all helping and facilitating sensory-friendly and accessible performances.
Thanks, Chuck. And in a lot of ways that you as an organization can help support sensory-friendly and relaxed performances is making sure that that marketing piece is out there for everyone who's attending these performances to know what type of an environment that they're going to be walking into. This is people can get up and make noise, move around, lights are going to be up, really creating the expectations for your patron, especially if you don't have the luxury of just doing like a very specific sensory-friendly performance with a specific audience, when it is a general audience, which a lot of we are dealing with. And then also, two more things, and I'll pass it off to you. Other things that you want to create, if anyone who registered for this program, you received a welcome guide via email, which is a great tool to use and a great resource that sets people up for success if they are kind of needing a little bit more structure and expectations for their day about the space. This is something that's universal and is accessible to anyone. I know there's plenty of times that I'm in a space where I'm just like, I walk in and I'm like, wow, I don't even know what to do. I'm in IKEA. I have no idea what's happening. So just thinking about all of us and our different levels of like sensory input and output, and how creating welcoming material from the get-go that's inclusive and available to every patron can really help to set that tone and make people feel like there isn't a stigma about using some of these devices. Chuck?
One tool that Jack and Beth talked about earlier that can be extremely helpful in cases of touch tours, in cases of sensory-friendly and accessible programming, is the use of touch tours, not specifically only for people who are visually impaired or blind or low vision, but rather as a tool for people who might be a little bit wary about coming into the space for the first time. The chance to go on stage, to feel the set pieces, to be described by Jack or a stage manager who kind of has a lay of the land before the show. Especially for people who have issues with depth perception, this can be kind of a complete change for the way that they experience the show. And it also lends yourself to opening up this communication channel with your audience. Ask what has helped, ask what they need, and that way you're providing services that aren't only adapted, but they're open, and customers feel like they can come to you with issues that might arise. As a person who uses these services, and as well as a designer for these shows, I represent a large neurodiverse community, and not everything is going to work for everyone all the time. That's one thing that is really frustrating for me, is because I would love for everything to be accessible to every single person in every way that we could. But making small changes they're really, really important, and your customers will notice that. So if you can take some of the things that you learned today and hopefully implement them in your theater, or now that you know about them, you can ask about it next time you go to a theater. Ask what kind of services they have available. Ask if you can use an assistive listening device. We want people to use the tools that we have. Especially me, I have a sensory table out, and I'd love afterwards if people come out and touch the weighted blankets and touch the weighted toys. It provides the audience with a sense that using the services that are providing does not mean you're taking it away from someone else who might need it more. We don't want you to think that when you come to a show, because if you feel that you would do better, if you had something to play with or something to fiddle around with, a weighted blanket on your lap because you're always moving around, we want you to feel comfortable, regardless whether or not you believe that you are in need of the services. Having them available and using them will continue to make them more accessible and more available to other people who do.
Thanks, Chuck, Michelle. Thank you, everyone.
Fade to black. White text on black background. ChicagoCulturalAccess.org. More information and free workshops. Calendar of accessible cultural events in Chicago. Free accessibility equipment loans, including audio description kits and caption screens. Credits for Part 5, Guest Experience, Physical Access, and Relaxed Sensory-Friendly Performance. Hillary Pearson, Producer and Audience Experience Manager. Michelle E. Benda, Expert User and Consultant. Charlotte Chuck Grumman, Relaxed and Sensory-Friendly Manager, Expert User and Consultant. Jason Harrington, Facilitator. Leandra Williams, ASL Interpreter. Thank you to our sponsors: ACS Interpreting and Training Services, Foxhole Creative, Harris Theater for Music and Dance, Horizons for the Blind, the Michael and Mona Heath Fund, Steppenwolf Theater Company. Video production by Foxhole Creative, Tim Frank, Producer, Tony Schiavone, Camera Operator, Alex Moore, Camera Operator and Editor, Haley Blumquist, Audio Technician. Video audio description by BridgetMelton.com. Video fades to black.